Mr.
Hey,
Ray.
hey, hey. How you doing, my brother?
Good. How's it going?
It's good, buddy. I'm glad to be back. We took a week off last week from the Hangout Live,
Yep.
and this week we're back. I hope everybody's had a happy New Year and a blessed holiday. And we are super excited about tonight's show, my brother.
Yeah. It's gonna
Absolutely.
be a
We've
good
got
time.
music icon John Waite joining us this evening. It's been a long time in the making for this show, and we're blessed to have him. Of course, the storied career starting out with the Babies, and then a incredible solo career. Bad English, Ringo Starr's All Star Band, and we want to get to all that, including the new stuff, man.
Yeah, the Wooden Heart volumes 1, 2, and 3. I think 3 was the latest, obviously, to come out, and I think there's a documentary in the works. I think we'll find out about that and maybe get some gritty stuff.
Some gritty
Looking
stuff,
for some
yeah.
gritty stuff.
That's it, my brother. So everybody, make sure you got your questions ready for this gentleman right here. We're welcoming Mr. John Wade.
Hello,
John,
guys.
how are you? How are you,
Um,
my
Hey,
brother?
Thank you, man. It's nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too, my friend. We have been super excited about having you on. Both Robbie and I are very, very passionate about music, and of course, your music has been part of the soundtracks of our lives. So please welcome you to the show, man. I appreciate you.
Well, God bless you. It's nice to be. We're off the road now for a week. We've been on the road since July, and we managed to do 37 days this year, which was kind of like unexpected. But we've been back for a week, and it feels like 2 months. So anything to do with music, drawn to it. So it's nice to have a chance to chat and talk music.
Heck
yeah.
yeah, my brother. Heck yeah. So coming up through you now, you grew up in Lancaster, is that correct?
Yeah, Lancaster, England. Yeah.
Lancaster, England. So let's go back there, my brother. So growing up in Lancaster, let's talk about the influence there, the culture there. Your parents, were they artists? Were they supportive of the music industry?
Yeah, I mean, Lancaster is a historical town in Lancashire. It's a county town. It's got a castle. It's got an art school that was built to be an art school next to the castle. It's got a priory church, cathedral that dates back to Roman times. It's on a river. It's on a canal. It's a very it's a incredibly beautiful city, and it's a university town now. So it's in the upswing. But when I was a kid, it was just very working class. Both my parents worked. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, they're very musical people in the northwest. It's just below Scotland and the
Hmm.
Lake District. So everybody's kind of musical. They got Irish blood, Scottish blood, Welsh blood. They all sing. And
Right.
my brother was in a band. My cousin Michael was in a trad jazz band when he left art school called the Temperance Seven, and he's quite a famous songwriter. Michael
Oh, yeah.
Deegan.
Really?
He wrote "Aux Champs Elysees," which was played at the Olympics. It's
Mm.
Right.
Waterloo Road, the English version. It's on the Darjeeling Limited movie. It finishes the movie. But that's my cousin
Wow.
Mike. And my brother Joe was a great guitar player. My mum played the piano. My dad used to collect music. So it was a very working class environment, black and white TV, pre Beatles, the whole bit. But there was music everywhere, but you had to be looking for it. It wasn't under your nose. But
Right.
all roads led me to become a musician, really.
Heck yeah. So you talk about the schools. Now that is it pronounced Greaves Secondary?
Greaves, yeah, Greaves Secondary School.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
if you can get
I'm
into
not
grammar school, they say it's a Greaves school, which is like it was more of they were getting you ready to be more of in the army or in the services of some sort, or following a trade like carpentry or woodwork or something. It was more of a working class view of your future. It wasn't what
Mhm.
grammar school was, which was much more middle class.
right.
Mm.
So and then now Lancaster Art College, is that second after Greaves? Did that come
Yeah, that came
afterwards?
after Greaves school. I left school at 15 and I went to art school at 16 for like 3.5 years. Got a diploma, became a well, I was going to be a designer, painter, illustrator.
Mm.
But at the same time, I was at art school. I was playing art school dances and listening to all the great music that was out there, like the Who, the Beatles, Free, Jimi Hendrix, all the old blues guys, soul music, country music. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, music was just as important as painting when you were at art school. I mean, all the kids that went to art school, Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, everybody went to art school and turned into a musician. So I just followed that path. But it was great. You know, I mean, it was such an incredible time. I mean, England was so English. It was, you know, I spent a lot of time in America, but when I go back to Lancaster, it's almost like a fairy tale city. It's really something to look at. It's beautiful.
You know, my heritage comes from Devon, England.
Oh, great.
So,
South.
and I've never been able to go over there and see it, and I long to go see it.
You should see it. Do you know, before the pandemic, I used to go back like 2 or 3 times a year because I live now here in the States. But coming in from the airport, you know, you get picked up by a driver and you're coming into Lancaster, and there's church steeples and trees and the Pennine Chain, all the mountains on the side, coming down the highway, and then you come into Lancaster, and it's like some sort of like, it's like going back in a time machine, you know. And the people are, you know, I think anybody that's got the wherewithal to go, you owe it to yourself to see Britain. You know, I mean, it's such a stupendous small country, but there's such a lot there, and the people are so alive. You know, they're so witty, they're so smart. You know, it's like it's just great to be there.
Brenda Preston says, "My God, it sounds like paradise." It does.
Yeah, it is. You know, I always thought by this time I'd be living in a farmhouse somewhere in Lancaster, but I'm still making music and still touring. You know.
So the fire is still there, man. You still got to produce right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, that you sort of think you've come to the end of the road somewhere, and like with the Wooden Heart album that came out a few months ago, 3 CDs. It's a collection of acoustic songs, and you know, I was trying to cut an electric album in the studio in the middle of the pandemic, and it just wasn't working. You know, it just wasn't happening. And so I went back and cut some acoustic songs, and everything I believed in just suddenly came back. I mean, it was where I was meant to be at that point. So it only took about 4 days to cut everything. So
wow,
really,
that's quick.
Really great.
Wow,
yeah,
that's incredible. So going back to the school days, you're going through school. When did you start playing music? As far as, because I mean, I know you got tapped as a bass player, but did you start with bass? Did you start with piano? Where did you start?
No, it was bass. My brother he had a Fender Telecaster, which was the first Fender in Lancaster. And he had a Fender Twin Reverb, which was the first Fender Twin Reverb. And I guess because I was his brother, I started playing bass on it, on the top 4 strings, thinking that we might start a band together. And then I heard Jimi Hendrix, and I started playing along to Hey Joe and Purple Haze, and I was listening to Hendrix and thinking, wow, what's that? You know, but I was fascinated by the bass, double bass, oboe, cello, viola, anything that was bass, even in classical music, like in the national anthem, you know, God Save the Queen. You listen to like the bass notes descending. It's tremendous. So and it affected how I sang. You can hear it in Paul Rodgers. Paul Rodgers was a bass player first. You can hear it in Paul McCartney singing. You play the root and you sing a certain note. You can go major or minor. It's an intriguing instrument because it's so simple, and it can be so incredibly important to other musicians playing. You can move a chord. You can move behind the chord and suggest something. And when you're a singer, that means you can open it up to a melody. So bass guitar, I was truly in love with it. I mean, I still am. I still play bass just for kicks, you know.
Did you play with your brother at all? Did you end up doing the band? You did.
Yeah. Okay. When I was about 13, I used to get up and sing a couple of songs at his band's rehearsal because I could sing, you know. But one day he was playing a gig at a youth club in Sulliard Street, and the bass player went off to get a pint of beer because there was no beer at a youth club, you know. And he didn't come back. He was having a second pint of beer apparently, And my brother, my brother got the bass. Yeah, my brother got the bass guitar and put it over my shoulders and said, "Play this note." And it was Third Stone from the Sun. It was a Hendrix song, and it was like, and I was just sitting playing these 8 notes, standing, and all my friends sort of gathered round, like there's like 20 people watching me, all the girls, and it
Right.
was the most thrilling experience. It was like I was only playing one note, and but I was having a great time.
There's an important note, though.
Yeah, right. They're all important, but that one changed my life. Yeah,
Hell
Right.
yeah. That one note actually sparked a fire,
yeah, it really did.
huh?
So those friends that were there back in that time, are you still in touch with all those friends?
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
am. I mean, some are no longer with us. The first drummer I ever played with, Richard Hother, passed away a few years ago, but he was a wonderful guy. One of my best friends in the world, David Woods. I've been friends with him since I was 17. And
Mm.
when I go back after, being with my mum for a day or whatever, me and Woody always go out and have Indian food and a pint. And I stay in touch. We email each other all the time. And David Wright, who was the head of the tourist board, very bohemian guy. But me and
Mhm.
David were the two arty kids at school. And
Mm.
he's a wonderful guy. I mean, it was really, about 10 years ago, I went and played my hometown for the first time
Wow.
Really?
since I
Really?
was about 17, yeah, at the
That's
Grand
great.
Theatre. And
Mm.
everybody showed up. And it was Charles Dickens had done a recital in that theatre. And
Wow.
yeah, Paganini had played there.
Wow.
Tiny,
Yeah.
tiny theatre, but I think it's the oldest working theatre in Britain.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
this promoter tricked me into coming to play in Lancaster. I would never have done it because it's just too nerve-wracking. But I looked in the audience, and there's my cousin Mary, and my mother's in the box with my brother Joe, all my nephews and nieces. Christopher Tweedy, who I hadn't seen since I was about 8, was in the
Mm.
front row. A very, very
Wow.
emotional thing to go home and play, and have all your family and friends and childhood friends come out and give you the thumbs up. It was a very emotional night. Really, it was
Oh, I
beautiful.
bet. That's
I
cool.
can't imagine how surreal that must have been for you
Oh
to,
man, I was nervous. I mean, you
were
can't
you?
say, how you all doing, because you know how they're all doing.
Right.
Hey, I hear Lancaster likes to rock. Of course you fucking
That's some
That-
serious history. Paganini. I love
yeah.
Paganini. So we played in that.
Paganini's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
Paganini played there. And
Wow.
Dickens, Charles Dickens, he did a couple of tours of America and Britain, um, uh, reading from his books.
That's
He would do
incredible.
this sort
wow.
of, yeah. Even
How
towards the end of
incredible.
his life, when he was really not well, he still did the tours. And like with the book like the Old Curiosity Shop, he'd play the different parts of people with his voice. Bring the house
Mm.
down.
Really?
Yeah, Charles Dickens, Paganini. Yeah.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
incredible. So
It is.
we're getting a lot of people chiming in here. Tanya Smith says, John, you still sound amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Jerry Wayne Yoakum, one of the greatest singers.
Thank you, Jerry. Yeah.
Dorothy, we love you. It's the comments are pouring in. I can't keep up with them, but there is a question here that says, "Is there a particular song from your youth that still brings a smile to your soul?"
A
Well,
lot.
oh my God. I
A
mean,
lot of
all
them.
of it moved me, man. All of it just killed me. I mean, Marty Robbins was always big with me when I was about 5 because he was cowboy music.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, and Big Iron and Hanging Tree. And, I mean, the cowboy music that I listened to as a kid probably directed me into rock and roll because it told stories, and it was an extension of cowboys and Indians. It was the imagery of America, and it had a hero and a heroine
Yes,
and a
sir.
story that was going to probably break your heart. But that led me to country too. I mean, by the time I was 5 or 6, I was really into Brenda Lee. And then
Mm.
my cousin
Right.
Michael, the banjo player, he played me Hank Williams. But it's you have to remember that all these guys were like the best that was around. It wasn't like music was a profession that you went into. There was no future in it. People who were musicians were like tough guys. They were on the road a lot, and they were playing 5 nights a week in America,
Right.
wherever it was, like Hank Williams on the road was on the road,
Yes, sir.
and that kind of potency had a sister in art. It had the thing about being an artist, a painter. So when I wound up at art school, the two things just coalesced.
Yeah, makes
That
sense.
you know, it's crazy because here we are. You're over in England and you're talking about the legends here of the country music, like Marty Robbins and Hank Williams and all this, and what they were doing. And here America is looking at what the British invasion and the Beatles and all of the sounds that are coming out of there with the same enthusiasm and the
Yeah.
same, that the sound was so incredible.
Mm.
And do you remember when that took place as far as
Oh,
the
yeah.
transition with that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I couldn't see it from your perspective at the time. First thing
Right.
I knew was hearing about the Ed Sullivan Show with the Beatles being so successful.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, from my end of it, apart from the Shadows, which were huge before the Beatles, Hank B. Marvin, what a great guitar player. But we were listening to Howlin' Wolf and stuff. Anything that was Big Bill Brunsey. I got a niece called Brunsey that's named after Big Bill Brunsey. I mean, these people were adored. The colored acts. I hate that word, colored, black or whatever, African American, but they were adored. Genuinely adored. All the blues guys could tour Britain and France and Germany and sell the place out. It was just like, you talk about America and Britain being like admiring each other, but
Yes.
we had Celtic music, we had the Irish and the Scottish thing, that folk music thing,
Yes,
which
sir.
turned into Appalachian music, which turned into country music, and the African Americans in Chicago and in the Delta, they gave us
Right.
blues, and that turned into really soul music, R&B, the OK label, all that stuff, beautiful stuff. But it's like two cultures rubbing up against each other, feeding off each other. And that's really what art does.
Yeah.
One hand shakes the other.
Absolutely.
You never make art by yourself. There's always somebody in the room with you or waiting for you to say something or having a response to it. But I think music is universal, and it's done a lot to put the world in harmony when it's worked.
Absolutely. So Barbara wants to know, do you still performing as much now as you did when you first started out?
Yeah, I have to, bless you. I have to say, some nights it just all clicks, and you might as well be. It's like knowing how to fly, but you don't have wings. And then when you sort of hit that first note and the band kicks in, everything changes, and the rules of gravity and time disappear, and you're in this wonderful place of performance, playing to people, and they have this energy that comes back to you. And somebody once asked me what was the greatest thing in the world from my career, and I said it was being understood. How many people can go on stage in front of thousands and thousands of people, or 500 people, and feel they're understood? You're singing songs about your life,
Right.
and people looking you in the eyes, and you can tell they're living that moment with you. I mean, how do you get tired of that?
There's no way.
Yeah.
That I can't imagine the feeling. Now, both of you guys perform on a stage. I don't get that luxury, but to have somebody connect with you and to live a moment with you, like, obviously the huge song "Missing You," I can't tell you how many breakups and times in my life that song showed comfort, you know what I mean, and gave comfort.
It means a lot of things to a lot of people.
It does. Absolutely.
Really great songs do that. I mean, a really great song, it's not obscure, but it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways by a lot of different people. The phrases means all things to everyone, but I think "Missing You" hit a lot of buttons. I think it was a very inspired song, and it only took 10 minutes to write. But it's one of those things that you only come across when it happens like that.
That's
lightning
cool.
in a bottle.
Yeah.
Lightning in a bottle.
That's the best ones when a song writes itself really fast instead of you struggle with it and you put it in the back burner. It's like, oh, it just wrote itself. It's like, how cool that.
All the best songs. The Babies used to do that. You know, I used to be the bass player, and I would just count something off and say in G, 1, 2, 3, 4, and head first. You know, happened like that. I mean, some of the biggest songs that we ever had were all
Really?
done by stepping off the edge. Yeah, you'd be surprised. And also having a deadline really helps too. You know, it's like, you know, we want the album finished by Tuesday. Righto. You know, you're like,
Now, what about Midnight Rendezvous? I actually used to cover that many, many years ago.
wow, man. Well, that was the
Yeah.
first, that was the first song me and Jonathan Cain wrote. And he had the guitar lick and I had the chorus. And that was it. You know, we need to spend some time alone. We need to see some dreams come true. It was like, I mean, the Babies were running out of money, running out of time. And it was a song really about, come on, you know, we need to win one, you know, and that was what the song was basically about, you know.
Wow. Brilliant. Shar wants to know who is the most influential music artist you have met in life
Well,
for you.
there's two really. I met Bob Dylan once in a coffee shop in Tokyo, and he was,
Wow.
you know, when I was in the Babies, and I got introduced to him by the Babies manager, and that was really something. I mean, that's you know, you look back on that and go, wow. But I actually got up and played with Pete Townsend in a club in New York City just when I'd moved there. He walked in with Mick Jagger and Jerry Hall, and he was having a drink, and he got on stage and plugged the guitar in, and he had a big black suit on, and I think Empty Glass had been like the Bible to me. It was a great album. And I just walked up and said, "Do you mind if I sing one?" And he went like, "Yeah," you know, and we stayed up there for like half an hour. And he was like a god to me.
Oh.
And you know, I was listening to Face Dancers, the album with You Better You Bet. Week before I left for New York, they were on Top of the Pops. And a week later, I'm on stage with the guy, you know, and that blew my mind. I'd seen The Who play when I was about 18, and it was a religious experience. I saw him do the Tommy tour in Britain, and you cannot, there are not enough words in the English language to describe what that was about. But I could almost feel my hair blowing back. And I idolized Townsend. I mean, I idolized him. And then the next minute, there he is, you know, and, you know, it's just mind blowing. But it was that's the reason I stayed in New York. I was thinking about going home, miss my girlfriend and all that. Then I met Townsend.
Yeah. You were, at one point, you were pretty much penniless in New York. Is that right?
It was what?
You were pretty much penniless in New York.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't got a thing. After the Babies, I went home, lived in the countryside, and then signed a solo deal and went back to America. But I went to New York City. I'd passed through it a couple of times, played there a lot. And they got me like a crash pad, like a tiny one-room studio opposite the Dakota.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. On 72nd Street. And this is only like 5 months after John Lennon had been assassinated. So talk about drama. There was that drama and that heaviness and the thrill of being in that city at that time. And things like the Townsend thing. It was a much smaller city then, and it was a much smaller world. It's before the internet was really whatever it is now. And so things happened spontaneously, but yeah, I didn't have any money, and I met Ivan Kroll from Iggy Pop's band and Patti Smith's band, and me and Ivan became best friends and put like the first album together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
with
the
Babies, you did some touring, obviously. What kind of tours did you guys do with the Babies? I mean,
in the Babies.
Yeah, who did you play with, and maybe give us a good gritty tour story?
Well, you know, we played everywhere. We played when we first came over to America. We went on a theater tour, 2,000 seats, and we did all the major TV shows, Merv Griffin, Dinah Shore, all that stuff, Midnight Special in concert. And then we got two new guys in, Jonathan Ken and Ricky Phillips, and we sort of became a much more aggressive live band. And we were writing albums that we could play live to big crowds. We knew that we enjoyed that the most. So we started writing something with a really strong beat that I could go out and just really act out to the audience. But we played the Rose Bowl with Cheap Trick, Journey, a lot of big bands, and we would be on like fourth down the bill. You know, there'd be maybe 6 bands, 7 bands, but we were very respected as a live band. I mean, we once played with Cheap Trick on the 4th of July, which is my birthday,
Right.
in Cheap Trick's hometown, and we went on after AC/DC. And that's Bon Scott's AC/DC. And I think Cheap Trick were trying to mess with us because they put us on just before Cheap Trick and after AC/DC.
Wow.
Typical Rick, you know. And we killed it. We absolutely killed it. But, you know, that's the kind of places we were. We were like an anomaly. People had thought at first we were just a passing like that. And suddenly we had 2 major singles, and we had a third album that had a big rock single Head First on it, and everything just came together. And we just went out on the road and played everywhere we possibly could. But playing the Tangerine Bowl and you know, all those places, I mean, and knocking them dead. You know, it was probably the most exciting period you can have as a young man, is to go into high gear. You know, it was just, and we could do it. We were good at it. You know.
Right.
That Rose Bowl show, what was it called? They typically named those shows something.
Yeah, you know, I just, you know, I've just done a documentary, and the guy that directed it, he did all this research, and I know what you're saying, like Day on the Green and stuff like that.
Yeah, it wasn't the California World Music Festival, was it?
Oh, it doesn't sound right. No,
Okay.
The world part wouldn't be right.
Because I was there for that one.
You know, Slash was there. Slash used to be a Babies fan. He told me that he was like 7 rows back, you know. But I mean, you know, that's how small the world was, you know. I mean,
Right.
that coming out of the Rose Bowl, and it's like sold out. I don't know how many people that is, but it's a sea of people. You know, if you've got any kind of case of nerves, you wouldn't be singing. I mean, it takes a lot of balls to sort of like
At least 100,000. At least 100,000 would be my guess. That place holds a lot of people.
It seemed to go by very quickly, as it would, being under that
Right.
kind of spotlight. But what a blast, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jennifer Varner's wondering, when you recorded the Union Jacks, what was it like working with music producer Keith Olsen, or working with Jonathan Cain?
Well, it was different. I mean, Keith, we'd worked with Ron Nevison on the second and third albums, and we'd learned a lot. And we decided we didn't really want to be overly produced. We wanted to sound like we did live. And Keith was coming off some major acts like Fleetwood Mac, and you know,
Right.
and it was great. I mean, he listened. He didn't have too much input. Like, no, we were very musical. I mean, we were writing songs in the afternoon and recording them at night, and they were good. And he just let it rock. You know, I mean, you're lucky to work with people that know what you're good at and let you do that. There's no kind of who has to have the last word. You're just trying to make a great record. You know?
Right.
Ideal.
Absolutely. So I've got to ask you, brother, and you said you don't mind grit. So you've got this Babies tour. You're playing these bands, Cheap Trick, AC/DC, the huge venues, all this. How do you wind up penniless back in New York after all that success?
Well, it cost a small fortune to put the Babies on the road and keep it there and make those records and pay wages and have rent paid and a road crew. And unless you really skyrocket into the top 5, you're just treading water, you know. And after the Babies split, you know, there was nothing left. We were all in debt, and it's just the way it is. I mean, back then that's what happened.
So head first, and every time I think of you both hit 13 on the charts, right on the top 100.
Yeah.
So,
But
I
you
mean,
need to get in the top 5, and you need to. I think the record label that we were with had distribution problems, and they were kind of a small label, and
right.
we would have done a lot better on a, you know, on a major label. We would have probably made it, but maybe they wouldn't have spent the money that Chrysalis spent on the band putting him where we wound up.
Right. That had to have been kind of a surreal outcome. I mean, here you are traveling, you're hitting these huge venues with these huge artists, and there you are, 13 on the top 100, and then boom, the babies come to a close. Just what, 5 months after Lennon's death, right? Octoberish, and
Yeah,
of 1980.
he got. I think it was 1980, and
It was.
yeah, and
Yeah.
About 3 days before we got the news, and we were playing in Columbus, Ohio, and I got pulled off stage, had all my cartilage torn in my knee. We went to Akron and played my last show there with the babies. I was on crutches, but I couldn't do it, and that was it, But we hit the wall,
Was it just inner relations problems with the other band or members?
I mean, 5 albums, man. I mean, you're in each
Right.
other's pockets, and Jonathan Cain had been offered the job with Journey, and it was like, oh man, really, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to stand in anybody's way. It was like, okay, but it wasn't worth going on. I thought we'd peaked, and I thought our relationship with the record company had peaked, and some of the last record was great, but young guys making 5 albums in a row, 1 a year.
Right.
That's a lot, man. And going on the road together.
And going on the road. Yeah, that's a lot.
It's just incredible. I mean, you look after each other like brothers. You really look out for each other. And there's a bond there that's unshakable, but people get married, have kids, or they want to go solo, or they've got other plans in life. But I think 5 albums, that's a lot, man. I mean, most bands don't last more than 2 albums,
Right.
But 5 and have a hit on each album is not bad going,
What label was that on? What was the
Chrysalis.
label? Oh, you were on Chrysalis.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what Pat Benatar was on Chrysalis, right?
Yeah. Neil Giraldo actually produced my first solo album.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
We've been doing dates with Pat and Neil. This year we did about 8 dates with them. Neil's
right on. Heck yeah.
Do you
So
know
the band
John-
disbands, and go
do
ahead,
you know
Robbie.
John Lockhart by any chance from Chrysalis Records? John Lockhart?
No.
No. Okay.
Well, I haven't
So
been
the
on
band-
Chrysalis Records since about 1982.
Wow.
So, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
The band disbands. You go back over to England. Where are you at in your head at that point in time? Are you
Yeah, good
thinking,
question.
man, I'm going to go back after this, or am I done? I mean, where were you at?
Well, I went back to England, got married, and my dad helped me get a small cottage in the Lake District, and I quit. I mean, I was just living in this tiny village. It was like idyllic, I was suddenly out of the game. My knee took a long time to heal, and it was just walking in the countryside and maybe going down to the pub and having a pint of Guinness and a cheese sandwich, and it was like All Creatures Great and Small, if you remember that one, the TV show.
Yes.
It's like the West Riding of Yorkshire, and there's farmers in the pub, with a flat cap, going, all right, those, how's they doing, lad? And I'm going like, oh, I'm all right. Yeah, how are you? Yeah, that sheep of mine ain't going right, and it was like, honestly, it was like a picture book, and I was living in it. Yeah. But after a while, I got off the label. Some lawyers got me off the label, and I signed to EMI, and Missing You happened, and everything changed overnight.
So let's talk about the inspiration behind Missing You and what brought that to be such a classic. Where were you at in your mind when you were writing that? Because you said it means a lot of things to different people.
Yeah.
What did it mean to you?
Well, it was completely subconscious. It came out of nowhere. I was writing a song with a guy in his studio. We'd finished the album for EMI, but I thought we hadn't got the whole thing. So I was trying to write one more song, and we're trying to find the song on his tape machine from the night before. And he hadn't put any code on the tape, so he didn't know where it was. So he hit the stop button and hit play, and this instrumental track came up. Gun, 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 gun. And I said, that's great. What's that? He said, it's nothing. I said, no, that's something, that could be what I'm looking for, you know? So he put that on the master machine, and I put the headphones on, and I took a run at it, just made it all up. Every time I think of you, I always catch my breath. And I'm still standing here and you're miles away, and I'm wondering why you're left. And there's a storm that's raging through my frozen heart tonight. I ain't missing you at all since you've been gone away. And I came up with that in one piece. But I used Every Time I Think of You, the Baby's title of that song, to push me off the edge, you know. And I guess I was away from home, you know, and I was trying to finish the record. But I didn't have any intention of singing any of that. It just
just came to you, just hit you.
Came to me. I mean, like I said before, the Babies, we do a lot of things like that. And I would have a lot of things in the back of my mind. I mean, my house is full of notebooks and stuff, you know. And I use some of it sometimes, but a lot of times I don't.
I hear that you're constantly writing notes.
What's that?
I hear that you're constantly writing notes on everything, including your shirt collars and shirt.
Yeah. No, it's you know, it's honestly, it's like, you know, I mean, look, you know, I mean, there's like everywhere I go, there's like this. I mean, this is my living room really, but I've actually got a painting of it on the wall. You know, I mean, if it isn't moving, I write on it or I paint on it. But it's a constant process, you know, and you edit as you live your life, and you edit all the things that are good stay with you, and they reconfigure in your mind, and then at the drop of a hat they're there, you know. There's really no explanation for it. It's just available if you don't go looking for it, it'll find you. And if you start to treat it with disrespect, it'll ignore you. It's like a woman, you know. If you don't respect it and you think, if you let it just come, it'll be there. But you can't count on it to be there all the time.
Yeah.
So how many times do you go back through your notes and think, man, that sounds like a lyric, or that sounds like a hook, or maybe I should work with this? And do you do that all the time?
Yeah. You know, yeah. It's like leaving out, if you have 3 words together and you leave out the middle word, something else happens. And I mean, I've never been afraid of words. I really like words. I like books. I like everything to do with words. And but you know, some words are musical sounding words, and if you use a processor to write, it's strange to look at it. But if you write it down longhand, there's something about the perfectness of it as well. It seems to maintain the idea more than it would do on a word processor. So I honestly, I can't explain it. It's just, and I think if I could explain it, I wouldn't have access to it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It actually really does.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you come back to New York, you got Ignition, you got Missing You. Here you are now, MTV hits. You're a household name, brother. Where are you at in your mind at that point?
Well, it was rough because, like, suddenly, I mean, it was great. It was a joy. You know, when you're that age, I was about 32 or something. it was like, it was funny, you know, it wasn't like, oh my God, you know, at last. It amused me. And I was working with people that were funny and very good at their jobs. I had a great band. I was living in New York City. Uh, it was a wonderful time. It really was. And I didn't do too much touring. We did a tour and played everywhere we could, all over the world, really, but a lot in America, and then stopped. There was this thing where I needed a place to live. I was living in a hotel, the Gramercy Park Hotel, and the record company said, if you make a record for us, we'll give you a great deal of money. And took advance for this album. So I bought a house in Westchester County, and it was Phil Ramone's house. He was a producer,
Yep.
Really?
and yeah, I bought that. It was a raging piece of property on a reserve. It was beautiful, and I that was the period I lived in. And instead of trying to write pop singles, and because I was never going to top "Missing You,"
Right.
never, I made an album I just thought was a great record, and tried to treat it with respect. You know, I wasn't going to go out there chasing my tail all over the world. It was great to tour, but I want to be taken seriously. Really, I think I hadn't got that pop star thing. I was playing with really tremendous musicians, and a lot of them. I mean, David Bowie ended up playing with quite a few of my guys, and Rod Stewart. I mean, I always played with really strong people. So my intention wasn't to come out and be flavor of the week or month. So I did I tried to be more of a songwriter and less of a public figure, you know.
Do you still have that place that you bought from Phil Ramone?
No, I sold it about 12 years ago.
Okay.
I got a speeding ticket, then I got another one, and I had to drive into town to work. And the local police, I was driving a Porsche, and every time I came off the freeway and came up these country lanes, the police would be kind of waiting for me. You know, it was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And I had like hair down to my ass and stuff and earrings. And I was very respectful. But this one cop, I think, decided he was going to make my life slightly difficult. And I lost my license. And then I thought about it. And I thought, well, you know, I love New York City and it's been 12 years.
Right.
I had it for 12 years and it's 12 years ago I sold it actually.
Oh,
But
wow.
but it was great. And it was a wonderful place to be at that point in my life. Yeah.
Sounds pretty cool.
The influence around New York and all of that. How much did that impact you as a writer, as far as the influence in the culture?
It was like being a tube of toothpaste and you were squeezing it. I couldn't go from A to B without writing a song. And every
Really?
time, I'm a New Yorker, really, in my heart and soul. I really am. Me and Glenn Burtnick wrote a song called Downtown, which is probably one of the most true hardcore songs I've written about the city and about, you know, that kind of fast life and being young. And it was a really emotional song. And there's stuff like Masterpiece of Loneliness. I wrote that in the house in Pound Ridge. It's a very dramatic city. And you got seasons, you know, seasons.
Yeah.
When it's Christmas, it looks like Christmas. And when it's summer, it's like England almost. And the people, you know, the people are very blue collar. Everyone talks to you on the street. One minute you stood next to Mick Jagger in a bar somewhere. The next minute you're talking to the guy selling you a hot dog. You know, I mean, it's like, I really like that. I like that about the city. It's interwoven with a lot of different cultures. Yeah.
How'd you end up in Santa Monica then? What was the catalyst to doing that?
Well, when a record I made called "When You Were Mine" was coming out, and I was living on Madison Avenue, and my manager was here, and I wanted to be around, and I'd lived in the city for such a long time. I thought I'd take a year off, you know, and I just went out to LA, and then I got offered the tour with Journey and Peter Frampton. and we went on the road, and the record came out, the next record, and Santa Monica's like a little England, really. There's an English pub, tea room. Half the people here are English. It's like an enclave of English people, so it's easy to live here. And I just bought a place. I had all this money in the bank, and I thought, well, buy somewhere, and I did. I didn't think I was going to be here that long, but here I am, back on my feet again.
Nice.
Right. So the solo career is obviously fantastic, and you blew up and became a household name. What brought on Bad English? How did that come about?
Well, I'd made a record for EMI, three, if you include No Breaks, and they were going through some problems. The guy who'd signed me, Gary Gersh, had left, and Jim Marzer, the head of the company, he'd left, and they were my guys, Another guy,
Right.
Frank Gauthier, that's no longer with us, but a wonderful guy. And they changed. I put out an album called Rover's Return, and I went to Germany to do TV because we're having a big success with it in Germany, and it was like #1 or something in Radio and Records. Do you remember that one, that magazine, Radio and Records? And it was like, charts, which all added, tremendous action on the radio stations. Everybody was loving it. And I went to Germany, then I went to England to see my folks, and I came back, and the record was like 75. And EMI Manhattan had changed to, no, EMI America had changed to EMI Manhattan, downsized like you wouldn't believe, and got a new head. So they really stuck with it. They really tried, but they were in a state of flux, and I lost the record. And my manager walked me into Epic Records and said, do you want to sign John Waite? Here he is. And the A&R guy was a big fan, but he said he was gonna find songs for me to sing, and that wasn't what I do really. So I started a band. Me and Trudy, my manager at the time, came out onto the street, and I said, you know what? Nobody expects me to be in a band. And that was the whole thing behind Bad English, is just ringing up people. Do you want to be in a band? And it worked,
Sure I would say it worked. I've got the album sitting at my house, my brother. It worked for sure.
Yeah, it's a good record.
It is, and I know we play it constantly here. When that took off, did it feel different to you? I mean, coming from the Babies and the solo career, did it reignite? I mean, did it have a different feel to you at all?
Well, the other guys, the Journey guys, obviously had a huge amount of success. Dean Castronova was a tremendous drummer. I think up to that point, I'd never played with anybody like him. Yeah. And Ricky Phillips was a great guy and a close friend of mine. And it was fun. It's like being #1 with Missing You. It's a lonely gig. You can't really go and buy cat food without being recognized. Right. And at that point, I was still kind of shy about being in the public eye. But when you're in a band, it doesn't matter. Everybody's cracking a joke and pushing at you, and we're going somewhere, Japan or wherever we're going. And it was just great fun. Everything came easily. We had tremendous management, frontline management, Trudy Green. Right. And Polly Anthony was the promotion person at Epic. Wonderful woman, great girl. And everything worked. It was just great.
So it was more comfortable for you not just being the solo spotlight then.
Well, I think even in the bands that I'm in, I always ask people in the room what they think and was that any good, and I usually write songs with whoever's playing guitar, and it's a very sort of there's a word for it, but it doesn't. It's a democracy really, but I'm the boss, so it's not really democracy. But I treat everyone the same, and it's fair. I think I fit into bands very well. I think I was very good in the Babies because egalitarian, that's the word. How's that for a word? Jesus Christ.
Wow,
I don't
you
think I've
pulled
ever
that
heard
one
that
out.
word. And I love that word.
Yeah, and
Equitarian.
start to say, yeah, and yeah, I love that thing where you make something together. I like the conversation. You know, I like working with a
Absolutely.
guitar player more than anything because it's always about the guitar. And but I didn't have any ego problems. I mean, it was like, you know, nobody did. You know, I mean, it was like we were all trying to pull to make it great.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
brother.
that's what it's about.
John Waldron says it was a pleasure driving you a few years ago. Thanks again for signing the 45s.
Wow, I wonder what that means.
Right.
You must have been the runner.
Means what does that mean?
So Bad English, you're back on top. You're playing some really big shows again. What happened there? Why did Bad English disband?
Well, there was conflict. There was like there seems to be a real problem with me and Jonathan. We just couldn't get on, and it was a sad thing. But he has his own world, and I've got mine. And we were forced back in the studio too early. You know, the record company wanted a second record, and we just didn't have it. We've been on the road for a year, but there's been tension there. You know, whereas I was trying to think. I really was trying to do something that wasn't too much me and wasn't too much them. You know, there was
Yeah.
something that sounded like the two things came together.
Yeah.
And we managed it through really working through the night and really scrapping stuff and starting again. There was no hard feelings. It's like, oh, fuck, you know, I wrote that. I'm a genius. You know, it was like, no, it doesn't work, you know.
Right.
And there was a really good feeling about just let's keep going. And we wrote stuff like Forget Me Not because of that. And Best of What I Got.
Mm.
And Restless Ones and Possession and The Price of Love. I mean, they were hard fought for. This wasn't like you go in the studio and you write like a couple of chords and the singer comes out and sings like, wow, you know, big notes. And it looks like a hit. So,
Right.
you know, you pat yourself on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty hard on myself. So God knows what I'm like with other people. But I think the standard was so high that you can't just run in the studio and make a record. You really can't do it. We demoed that first record completely.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah, before we cut it with Richard Zito. We went to a garage somewhere in outside LA and set up a recording unit, and it was insane. You know, it's like next to a strip club, and we'd go and have
I
a
get a
beer.
lot of inspiration there.
You know, it was all there. It was all somehow worked for us, and but we were very sure when we went in that we knew the songs we were going to do, and it was like just blazing through everything in like first takes, you know.
Mm.
I mean, we'd all been around the block, you know. I mean, me and all of those guys, we all knew what worked, and I think we succeeded brilliantly for a period of time, you know.
Absolutely. A year on the road's got to be incredibly difficult on a person.
Not really.
Man, I couldn't. I don't think I could do it. Being in a bus and that with all the guys constantly. I mean, if you're not melding together and just being completely
Oh
a
yeah,
unit, then
yeah. There's you know, if somebody's political, if somebody's a problem and they've got a problem with you, which happens in bands, it's like, oh man, really? And it never lets up. You know, somebody's got that kind of energy. They're trying to compete with you or something. It's like bullshit, and it happens. It really does. It happens.
It
But
sure does.
and it happens in all sorts of different bands. But
Yeah.
you know, I suppose the great thing is you can go back to being solo. You know.
You can.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Right, you can.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Watch this, boys. Yeah.
so obviously, we would be remiss if we did not talk about this gentleman and you right here, the Ringo Starr All Star Band.
Yeah. No, yeah, Ringo. Yeah. Ringo
Yeah.
Starr. Yeah.
Tell me, come on. So you grow up in England. You know the Beatles were a huge thing when you were growing up. They hit the market a lot earlier.
Huge thing. They were the thing.
The thing, absolutely. How surreal was that? How do you get the tap from Ringo to come, front his all-star band?
Well, his manager, I think, excuse me, I think made some suggestions. Hey Ringo, this would be good. He can play bass. This guy's a great guitar player. And then Ringo listens to you, and I suppose he goes like, "Yeah, okay," or no, I don't know. But the phone rang one day, and it was Ringo.
Wow.
I was in the bathtub. I was taking like a noontime bath. I was like just soaking away, and the phone rang, and the answer machine came on. It's, "Hey John, it's Ringo, man." And it was like I shut out of the bath, picks up the phone, it's Ringo. And since I was 9 years old, I thought he was the people's Beatle. He was the guy that everybody loved.
Heck yeah.
About 4 months later, I flew to Toronto, and then from there on to a casino where we were doing the first shows, and rehearsed for like 10 days, and then we filmed it, and then went on the road for like 7 weeks. But it was surreal. It really was. There was moments when you just can't believe it's happening, but great memory.
Lisa says, "What a great bath." To have Ringo call and interrupt, right?
Yeah, it was weird, but he's a very regular guy. He likes to have a laugh. He's pretty very professional guy.
Really, pretty down to earth.
Yeah, it's I was very worried about playing bass and keeping up. Because it wasn't just Ringo. There
Right.
was Colin Hay with all his songs, Sheila E. with her songs, which is like, Bootsy Collins would have been better for Sheila's stuff. And
Yeah.
Paul Carrack, beautiful songs like How Long and Living Years, and then
yeah.
they just give me a mic and I just sing, but there's like a lot of different songs and areas, genres of music to cover. It was really something to pull it off.
So you'd come to a point in your career where you still nerved? I mean, were you still nerved like you were back in the babies when you took the big stage, or did you feel a lot more confident by this point?
Oh, there's no question. Once you've been, like I was saying about the babies playing to those kind of audiences, and then I've done that as a solo, and then, I've been there, man. I mean, the unplugged shows these days, they're about 500 seats to anything up to 1,000 to 1,200 or whatever. But the moment you step onto a big stage, it's like riding a bicycle. It's like this, you just know how to pace it, how to bring the energy together, how to keep the band in a groove, how to bring it up slowly, and then kill. It's something you never lose, and you don't learn it like watching TV. You learn that coming up. It's because that's what separates the men from the boys. You walk out in front of 60,000 people or something. What are you going to do?
Right.
Where are you going to look?
Yeah.
You bring it. That's all you can do. Whether you're doing an unplugged show or playing to a massive amount of people, you bring it. That's my job. There isn't any excuse. People have paid to get in. They've bought the records, man. And it isn't like I don't quite feel like it or I've got a cold. You bring it. That's
absolutely
no excuse.
Yep.
Absolutely. Do you find the energy better? I mean, is it more intimate with a smaller crowd? Is it more nerve-wracking, or is it easier to play in front of a larger?
It's more nerve-wracking. It's more nerve-wracking, but I like that now. Because the unplugged thing for me now is we have a drummer too. It's like there's 4 people on stage, but I'm playing acoustic. The guitar player's switching from electric to acoustic. There's electric bass. So we can switch it into a full rock show at any time. But like with the Pat Benatar, Neil Giraldo gigs we just done, we were playing in front of 6,000 people unplugged, and it worked. And that's with percussion and without. So I think, honestly, when you've got a catalog like mine, you can get their interest right off the bat and then hit them with something like we're talking about Downtown, the song I wrote about New York with Glenn Burnick,
Right.
that turns them inside out. I mean, you playing Back on My Feet, or Isn't It Time, Unplugged, or Midnight Rendezvous, or When I See You Smile, or Missing You, but you play Downtown, and people lean forward about an inch. See, that's the difference. See, the really severe songs behind the pop singles are the ones that kill them. That's the ones where people come back the next year to see you.
That's the magic.
Yeah.
No, just stepping back for just a second. When you played those shows in the 70s with the Babies, that must have been nerve-wracking. Don Kirshner's, I mean, you named all the biggest shows to be
No,
on TV.
I actually, there's a documentary coming out next year on me.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw a rough cut. They were good enough to send it to me about 2 months ago, and it took me a month to watch it. I didn't want to watch it, and I watched it, and it had Dinah Shore and the Babies playing, and I was completely at ease. And I was watching this thing like Don Kirshner, and I was completely, I don't know where it came from. I don't remember it being like that, and yet I'm completely relaxed and completely comfortable and singing my ass off. And it was like, ta-da! It wasn't like nothing was forced. You know, that's who I was at that time, I guess.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful thing to see a young version of yourself, you know, doing something that he does well. I quite liked it. You know?
So that documentary comes out next year in 23.
No, see, good one. No, this year. Well,
Okay.
I think they're looking for a network to pick it up.
Cool.
And
And what's the title of it?
The Hard Way.
The Hard Way. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, a few comments from the audience here. Your songs have helped me through some of the best and worst times of my life. Songs helped me get through so much, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Barbara. Means a lot.
Jerry says, love your work, brother.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, man.
Dorothy, I can die happy now.
Okay,
LOL.
Dorothy, we can die happy together. Thank you.
There you go, man. There you go. So, one more thing. So, let's talk about the Wooden Heart series, the 1, 2, and 3 on your website. Now, the official website, I'm going to share that on the screen here, John, real quick.
Great.
Let's talk about that because I'm super excited about this. So johnwaiteworldwide.com is the website. John, tell us a little bit about the Wooden Heart and what went behind that.
Well, about 6 years ago, I recorded 4 songs, put them out, just because I really wanted to put out some acoustic songs. And it didn't, break any records. It was just for the fans. We're doing a lot of unplugged dates. I would have made it a full album, but the guitar player had to leave. So I was kind of stuck with 4 songs, and I thought, well, I'll put out an EP. And then about 3 years ago, I decided to do it again, but this time put on Missing You and Isn't It Time, which is something to do it unplugged. Right. And a beautiful song called In God's Shadow, I wrote with Keith Reed from Procol Harum. And Masterpiece of Loneliness, all these beautiful darker songs mixed in with the singles. And that was volume 2, put that out, sold out immediately. It was a big success. And then in the pandemic, I wanted to make an electric album, but I couldn't make it work. I felt like I'd done it all before. Neil Giraldo came down and played keyboards, and I had Shane Fontaine playing guitar. It was a crack band, and I kept trying, and I spent like 20 grand over 2 weeks trying to get these songs, and I couldn't. And I was leaving the studio, and I thought, I can't leave the studio like this. Come on, man. You're supposed to bring it. And I decided I would do volume 3 of Wooden Heart. And we cut Dylan's Not Dark Yet. And right there, I think all the compression of emotion, all the anxiety of the pandemic busted out.
Yeah.
It was like coming up for air. After you dive in the sea and you go down too deep, it was like, here I am, and just kept going and cut, I think, 6 more songs. and that was going to be volume 3. So instead of just putting out another album, I decided to do a triple CD release, Wooden Heart, volume 1, 2, 3.
Cool.
And it sold out the first pressing. We're almost at the second, sold out. So, I mean, people have really responded to it, but it's a challenge, you know? I mean, I don't think I've ever done arena rock. That's something that's in a particular specific place, you know? And I think the lyrics and there's always been an intent behind it. And I've always tried to push myself. And at this point in my life, to make 3 CDs that are unplugged that can hold your interest, you know, that's an achievement. I'm not patting myself on the back. It's just that that's a challenge. I can do everything else standing on my head, but to make just one guitar and maybe the bass coming in and make somebody lean forward, that thing about leaning forward, you know, when people really get engaged, they don't go like, oh man. I saw Willie Nelson once play at the Opry, and I was stood at the side of the stage, and I watched the entire audience lean forward. He went into Whiskey River, and they all leaned forward. And that's what you're shooting for. You know, I don't want anybody to be doing this stuff too much because I've seen it. I want people to lean forward.
Wow.
No, was Luis only on that one track?
Yeah. He was actually on the electric tracks.
Oh.
But I still couldn't get him to work. But it was Luis and Shane Fontaine from Springsteen and Sting, you know, and Graham Nash. But 2 of my favorite players, you know, but I got lucky like that, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I've always played with great guitar players.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luis is amazing. Luis Maldonado is who we're talking about.
Love him just as his person, his whole thing, you know what I mean? Just the whole thing. As a musician, as a human, the whole bit. It just, you know.
Yeah, he's a very interesting, soulful guy.
Yeah.
He is.
Very passionate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Michael Potter says, when I see you smile, John is a great song, many great memories for that. And Robin came back with, yes, I've been singing it since the first interview was supposed to happen here, much to my husband's suffering. So thank you, Robin, for torturing your husband with the vocals there.
That's my next duet. Yeah, I'll be over on Tuesday.
All right. Robin will send her address through, I'm sure. So, brother, we talked a little bit about this before the show, and I'd like to kind of talk about it right now. I want to do an artist of the week here on the radio station. So I'm going to have to pick up the Acoustics 1, 2, and 3 from Wooden Heart.
Yeah.
And I want to start playing that through and then have you come back and be on the radio with me.
Oh, that'd be great. You know,
I think that would be fantastic, man. I'd really enjoy that.
I would love to. I enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely.
We all love to communicate now because of lockdown, you know?
Yes.
And all these weird times that we're living in. The last 37 days we played this year, they were some of the best gigs I ever played. And the audience is so open and we are so ready to play that the performance is just right up there. You know, you're bringing it again, you know, and the audience are willing you on, you know. By the end of the performance, everybody's on their feet screaming, and it's, you know, every show is kind of sold out. Everybody's like having a great time, but it's like this conversation, you know, we're just happy to sort of be back, you know. We're gonna have to find our way out of this thing, but I mean, I think the end is in sight, you know.
I think so too. You just gave me goosebumps talking about that energy from the audience and how they're willing you forward. And
yeah, they do.
It's a beacon of light, man. That's what it is.
You can't put your finger on that, but if you could put it in a bottle, you know, I mean, the world wouldn't be going to fight wars anymore. You know, I always thought if you took an Israeli and you took a Palestinian and you put them in families, like maybe 2 families, and you put them in a dark room together, and you pipe in some Barry Manilow or Barry White,
right?
You know, and you know,
baby,
and everybody would be just. It's like Rock the Casbah, you know. It's like the Clash, you know. It's like it's like music can do more than you can even really. It's like Shakespearean kind of like. in the stars. You know, music bonds us together on a level that you can't even describe. And we should tap into it more and start playing it much more than we do, apparently.
Absolutely, my brother. So a lot of people have commented in here, and I didn't catch it in time, but I will ask you. Obviously, Alison Krauss, amazing talent, beautiful voice.
Yeah.
The rendition you guys did together, did the duet of "Missing You," was phenomenal. You're a very blessed man.
Yeah, that was a high point. That was a
Yeah.
high point for me. It really was. We actually got to play the Opry together.
Oh, cool.
Oh man. I mean, I was more nervous doing that than I was ever going out in front of 60,000 people, you know, that I was more. I mean, I'd done a Vince Gill song about 4 years before, and Vince showed up, and me and Alice are on stage doing Missing You, and it's being broadcast. I got my band there, you know, and when we go and do the Vince Gill song, unbeknownst to me, I turn around to count the band in, and Vince is there with the Stratocaster, looking at me like, yeah, you know. And so I got to play with two of my favorite artists. So it was like you know, there's certain periods, you know, I've had a magical life. It might have been very colorful, but I wanted it that way. And I've done a lot of things that are luminous to me, you know.
Absolutely, man. Vince is an incredible talent. I absolutely adore Vince. So, all right. So, question. Here's the grit.
We had a great time.
One story from the road, wildest story that you can tell right now, living the life that you lived. What would it be?
Well, on the No Breaks tour in 83, 84, I was in Pennsylvania, and we'd been driving all night to get to the hotel. And we checked in, and I had a bodyguard. You know, I got walked to my room, settled me, got my luggage together. You okay, John? Yeah. And shut the door. And I sat on the couch, probably lit a cigarette, you know, just like put my feet up. And I heard these sounds in the room. And I couldn't work out what it was, you know. So I thought the TV might be on. So you know, TV was on, wasn't the air conditioning. And then I heard a giggle, right? And it was coming from the closet. So I went over to the closet, and I opened the closet, and there was two girls in there, two teenage girls. Yeah.
Oh,
Right. Giggle, giggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man. So somehow they got snuck in there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were the gentleman and escorted.
Oh, we had breakfast. Yeah.
The consummate gentleman, right?
Continental. Yeah.
Go ahead and deliver it to the room.
No more eggs with that.
Brother, I can't thank you enough, man. You are an absolute pleasure to sit back and talk with, my friend.
No,
so,
it was great. Yeah.
We've got each other's number. I'm going to shoot you over a text. I'd really want to get this planned with you as far as getting the Artist of the Week deal on. And we'll be sharing everything on our websites and social media for you as far as Wooden Heart.
Oh, man, thanks a lot.
Man,
well, Drake and Robbie, thanks so much, man. I had a really sweet time talking to you. It's been funny and a good time. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, my brother. Thanks for making tonight happen for us and everybody else. They're all going on. All right, my friend. God bless you.
See you.
John Waite from the Hangout. What a great guy, man. I got goosebumps, dude. I don't get goosebumps talking to people on here, man. He's just a fantastic human being.
Yeah,
Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Yeah, it was. It was a blast. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. We'll see you next week on the Hangout. Obviously, we'll be back again. Robbie, who do we have next week?
I think it's Luis Maldonado. I got to check, but I think we're going to have
Luis. I think it is Luis, man. Everybody coming in here. Dorothy, her heart is happy. I'm so glad to hear that. Blair, Lisa, Veronica, Jennifer. I've seen a lot of new names tonight. Thank you for joining us tonight and making this a special show. But this was a fight to get this to happen. just because of scheduling.
It's all good. It all worked out and worked out well. So
Right?
I think we're
So
all a little richer after this.
What's that?
We're all a little richer after
I think
this.
so too, brother. I think so
Spiritually
too.
bonded.
Totally
Cool.
good, dude. Yeah. So had a blast. As always, we both love you for being here and supporting us. We've been here a little over 80 some weeks now, man. In fact, April will be 2 years.
Yeah.
Crazy to think this has been going on that long already.
Yeah. No kidding.
Right? All right, my brother.
Cool.
Well, let's get out of here. We love you all, and we'll see you next time right here on the Hangout.